So this is lesson 49 in Algebra 1, multiplication of polynomials. The nice thing about multiplication is you can multiply about anything. In the last section we were adding and subtracting polynomials, and that gets a little bit tricky because there's certain rules to follow, but in multiplication there really aren't any. You just multiply everything. So in example 1 we have 4x times x squared minus 2. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is combine terms that are inside the parenthesis. Now remember the rule for combining terms. You have to have the same variables, which this one doesn't have any, so these can't be combined. And you have to have the same exponent. But since we don't have the same variables, we're done. That leaves us with multiplying this, remember the distributive property. So we multiply 4x times x squared. 4x times x squared would be this 1, plus that 2 would be 3, 4x cubed. And then let's do the next part in blue, 4x times negative 2. So we multiply the numbers, negative 8, and we tag the x on there. And we're done. That's it. Nothing really scary. Alright, let's look at the next example. Let's look at doing the FOIL method. That's just another way of multiplying polynomials. 4x plus 5 times 3x minus 2. Alright. Gosh, the book has you doing it a different way. I don't understand why they have you doing it that way. I say just do the FOIL method. That's what you're used to doing. So go ahead and do it that way. And the FOIL says you take the first terms, the outside terms, 4x and negative 2. So I guess that would be minus 8x inside and last. And then you can usually combine those two middle terms. And you're done at that point. Okay, so we've just got a couple more examples and we'll be done. So, because multiplying polynomials is not really that bad. So, looks like 49.3 is basically the same thing using the FOIL method. And 49.4, 49.5. It looks like all of these are pretty much doing the FOIL method. Let's look at 49.4. Going to multiply our first ones and get 12x squared, because x to the first plus x to the first is x squared. Now we're going to do our outside, 4x times negative 5. Now our inside, and then our last. This right there is what we're going to combine. And when we get there, we're done, except this is 14, isn't it? 20 minus 6, or negative 20 plus 6 is 14. Okay, let's do number 49.5. It has 3x plus 2 squared. Now basically that just means and you do the FOIL method and you're done. Alright, so let's look at this one again. Let me erase some stuff here and get it out of the way, because I want to remind you of, if we haven't already done, what's called the vertical method. So far you have done the FOIL method. So that's where you do your first, outside, inside, last. And there's also a vertical method. I don't remember if we've done this or if it was Algebra 2 we did, where you stack them. Alright, and what you do is you multiply them, just like 23 times 23 would be, where you multiply those two first. So we'll multiply those two first and get 4. And you always put the sign there. So we multiplied 3 times 3 and got 9. So this is just showing you the pattern that works. Alright, after we do that, then we multiply these two. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to multiply these two and get 6x. Okay? And when we multiply these two, we get 6. Then what do we do over here? We start over here. 3 times 2. Well, we're going to do the same here. This times this. And that's going to give me 6x, a positive 6x. And remember, this right there, we multiply those, we get 6, and that's where we put it. The next step, we multiplied this times this and get 4, just like we're going to multiply those two and get 9x squared. Then, in this one here, we add things up. And over here, we add things up. And we get that for our answer. And we're done. And we're happy. Okay. So let's look at one more, and this is the reason you learn this vertical method, is because when you're given some pretty crazy equations, the vertical method seems to be the best way to do these. Holy cow, it's hard to get rid of all this junk. Alright, so we've got 4x minus 2 times that. Alright, so let's see what kind of trouble we can get into here. We're going to do the vertical method, and what we do is we put the longest polynomial on top and we put the short one directly underneath. And it's kind of like multiplying 325 times 42. Okay? 3 digits on top, 2 on bottom. 3 terms on top, 2 on bottom. Okay, so let's do this. Multiply those two, and I get negative 8. Multiply those two, get negative 2x. Multiply these two, and I get negative 2x squared. Okay, now I start with these, and I get positive 16x. Then I multiply those, and I get positive 4x squared. Then I multiply those, and I get 4x cubed. Notice what happened here is all of my like terms are stacked above each other. If I don't have anything stacked on top of it, then there's no other like terms, and everything is just left the way it is. So 4x cubed doesn't have anything to add to. This here does. Negative 2x plus positive 4 is 2x squared. This here. And nothing to combine with that 8. Okay, there's my answer, and I be done. Alright, so that's lesson number 49. So go ahead and get started with that. The practice problem, it says write the answers in descending order of the variable. Descending order of the variable is exactly what we have here. There's our variable, and it goes 3, 2, 1, no x's. That's descending. And when you do it in this vertical method, you're going to get it in descending. You're not going to have to move anything around at all. So shouldn't give you any trouble there with lesson number 49.